Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. It pretty much doesn't get any more inappropriate than this. You know, when it comes to other people's children, there has to be some boundaries. I mean, you don't want random strangers approaching your children, trying to influence them, and bringing up topics that you as a parent find totally inappropriate. In fact, this concept is so true that it even applies to close family members. A mom and a dad, you have a young child. Well, those boundaries apply even to close family members like an uncle. You're the parent. You get to decide who influences that child. You are bringing up that child as a member of your family, your direct descendant, and other people don't just get to circumvent your parenting values, your family values, traditions, etc. It obviously applies to your children's teachers. Yet for some reason, we're at a point right now where the public school mantra is they're our kids and not yours. We all remember this infamous clip.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
Oh, and not to mention Joe Biden essentially said the exact same thing.
Rebecca put a teacher's creed into words when she said, "There's no such thing as someone else's child. No such thing as someone else's child. Our nation's children are all our children."
I don't know where these people get off, I don't know who they think they are, but that's really the topic of the day. You might call it the topic of the month or the topic of the year, especially with so much focus even outside of the political world with the whole Nick Merck situation and whatnot. I want to show you a couple of viral incidents that really put it all into perspective. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, before we play these clips, I want to lead by saying, who do these teachers think they are? Just take a look at this clip.
Why are you showing this to kids?
Hey, I'll warn you guys now, if you're going to be inappropriate, I will have supervision down and give all of you a Saturday school for next year. So knock it off.
Okay.
Now, did you hear what the teacher said? She said, "I'm warning you guys now, if you're going to be inappropriate," and threatens to escalate the situation. And there's something so shocking about that statement. I mean, the irony. If you're going to be inappropriate, she says, who's really being inappropriate? The children who are shocked? Saying stuff like,
Why are you showing this to kids?
why are you showing this to kids? Kids in school who are being showed a Pride Month video of what appears to be, it's kind of hard to tell, two individuals embracing each other. I can't really tell exactly what's going on, but content that I deem quite inappropriate, yet this teacher has the audacity to essentially threaten the children with reprimand if they speak up. The same question applies. Who does this person think she is? I can't imagine sending my children to school for them to be subjected to this type of content, this type of curriculum. You send your kids to school to learn how to critically think, to learn basic societal ethics, how to act in a society. I'm focusing on that part because, of course, it's more relevant to the science and maths and whatnot. You do not send your kids to school to be indoctrinated with a certain political way of thinking. You don't send your children to school to put them into an environment where other adults are going to undermine and disrespect your faith-based standards and family beliefs. Here's a perfect example similar to the last, an audio recording from a school in Canada where a teacher frankly does the unimaginable.
Well, I'll tell you, you are out to lunch. If you think it's acceptable to not show up because you think if there's some pride activities going on at school, right? Oh, that's fine. You know, because I'm going to show my opinion by hanging out at the mall. But meanwhile, all of those kids who are, you know, involved in, say, the Gay Street Alliance or whatever, I don't even know if we have that anymore in our school, they're here when we did Ramadan for Lion Time, and they're showing respect in the class for your religion, right, for your beliefs. It goes two ways. If you want to be respected for who you are, if you don't want to suffer prejudice for your religion, your color of skin, your whatever, then you better give it back to people who are different from you. That's how it works. It's an exchange. And it isn't like that in all countries. As I told you, in Uganda, literally, if they think you're gay, they will execute you. If you believe that kind of thing, then you don't belong here. Because that is not what Canada believes. We believe in freedom. We believe that people can marry whomever they want. That is in the law. And if you don't think that should be the law, you can't be Canadian. You don't belong here. And I mean it. I really mean it. And it's not a joke, Mansour. I said back and forth. You want it, you got to give it. It just makes me angry. Sorry, I'm a little worked.
And again, it goes beyond acceptance. It goes way beyond acceptance. The teacher is essentially demanding that the student celebrate alternative adult lifestyles, or else they can't be Canadian. The other student showed up to the Ramadan event, therefore you must show up to celebrate Pride during relevant events. Again, totally inappropriate. You know, I'd even argue that the Ramadan event is inappropriate. Unless you're sending your kid to a religious private school within the public school system, religion shouldn't enter the room. And the woke religion certainly shouldn't enter the room. You can teach tolerance, basic societal acceptance, basic personal ethics, without forceful indoctrination, without forcing people to get on two knees and bow down and pray to woke ideology. And I mean, clearly it's force. As you see from these videos in these schools, they have to force it on these children through threat of reprimand. It's inappropriate on so many different levels. It's inappropriate because the parents themselves probably have the most common view, which is I should be the one talking to my children about these types of sensitive societal topics and these adult topics when I believe they've come of age, when they're mature enough to understand how the adult world works. It's obviously inappropriate in terms of values to be telling children from devout religious families that they have to show up, they have to celebrate things that goes against their faith and religion, or else they're not Canadian and can't be in the country. Again, use of force, and beyond that, just the threat of reprimand in general, this forceful leftist authoritarian nature, how this ideology spreads across society. I mean, that's how woke ideology works. It's enforced through fear, intimidation, and threat of backlash. Do it or be exiled. Do it or lose your job. Do it or be exposed online. You know, good ideas are easy to implement. When something is right, you don't have to jump through hoops to try to convince people that it's right. You should be able to make a coherent argument that makes sense and appeals to most people's basic common sense and ethical compass. You tell people, listen, there's different people of different orientations, religions, whatever it is, those people should be respected. Nobody's really gonna have an issue with that, and that's not the issue whatsoever. The framing of this whole thing as being hate is nothing but authoritarian propaganda. It's not about hate, and even religious people don't hate people of particular orientation. It's an ethical disagreement, and you're entitled to that disagreement. You're entitled to that belief. You can preach tolerance, acceptance, which is basically where we were in society anyways. I don't even get why we need to move beyond that, without forceful indoctrination and forceful celebration. People should have the right to make up their own minds for themselves, and of course they have the right to raise their children the way they want. Once those kids are 18 or in their early 20s, they've decided to leave the house, leave the nest, so to speak, and start their own lives as adults, it's a different story entirely. But the idea that the government and public schools or major corporations should be enforcing personal and ethical beliefs onto citizens or employees is fundamentally wrong. Ethical beliefs are highly personal and you are entitled to them, whether or not it offends somebody or people disagree with it. As long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're not actively discriminating against someone or initiating violence against that person, you are entitled to that belief. Just like the whole same-sex marriage wedding cake issue, that company, based on their religious views, had the right to reject making that cake. These are fundamental religious rights, personal beliefs, and free speech rights. And one thing we gotta get straight as a society are parental rights. Random adults who just happen to be teachers don't get to reprogram your kids based on whatever the state doctrine is. Last thing that needs to be said, enough is enough. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Of course, you know we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.